Welcome to episode 1 of the RYU podcast, a podcast where we talk about everything to improve your quality of life, mindset, health, business, finance. Today we're joined by Kyran O'Neill.
I didn't know I was episode 1. That's an honor.
You're episode 1.
That's an honor,
I wanted to
brother.
start a podcast when I came out. I was like, I'm going to do
Wow.
a few solo episodes, and I was texting you. I was like, let me just try and ask him and see if he comes on.
Oh, it's an honor, mate.
But yeah, episode
honor.
1. He didn't even know. We're joined by Kyran O'Neill, founder of Total Mental Performance. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate you. How are you?
A pleasure. Yeah, good.
You doing good, yeah?
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? You're on my first episode, the first episode of my podcast. And I remember going to the TMP event. 2023, was it? September? Do you remember that event?
Was it the Manchester one?
The Manchester one.
Yeah,
Was
in
it
the
September?
In the cinema.
That
Yeah.
was like the first event I went to after I've started my business.
Oh.
And before I bought the plane, I was like, I actually didn't know you very well
Ah.
because Tony gave me the tickets to the event.
Yeah.
And I downloaded your podcast.
Uh-huh.
I downloaded like 2 solo episodes. The one with Audie Carson
Uh-huh.
and the one with Tony.
Uh-huh.
And here you are on my podcast.
Wow.
How
what
crazy
a
is that?
moment. That is
Full
cool.
circle.
That is
You haven't
cool.
advanced since then, have you?
No.
Why not?
They're quite stressful.
They're stressful.
There's
eh?
a lot of complexity. Like, you got to think, in that event, we had a cinema, we had 8 speakers. Each of my coaching team had different objectives and deliverables. So there's quite a lot of logistics. The one before that, I did an underground bunker in London underneath Charing Cross Station where we were projecting images onto the walls. So when I do an event, I'm all in. It's not just generally a conference room and let's chat. I want an audio-visual experience. So it's quite a lot going on. And then the last year, there was a lot going on. So I went, you know what? I'm just going to pause events for now.
You're gonna
Just
do one
focus
this
on
year?
Coaching. No, I'm just going to focus on coaching
You're
for
gonna
now.
focus on
I mean,
coaching, yeah.
maybe. I haven't got a date, but I'm very much like, now I'm going to do it. And then I book it in and then I go and get it done. And then I get out.
I'm sure a lot of people know what you do, but if you could give a quick summary of what TMP is, what do you do?
Yeah. Well, I'm a mental performance consultant. So I work really in 3 ways, right? It's helping people get more shit done in less time and helping them enjoy their existence more. And all of my clients are business owners. So all of my clients generally don't have business problems. They have personal problems. It's themselves getting in their own way. So I help them manage themselves so they can get more done. And that's pretty much it. I'm a qualified therapist, cognitive hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, performance coach. And I've done a lot of work on myself. I've done over, I think it's about 500, maybe 700 one-to-one hours of mindset coaching for me as the client. And these are a range of different coaches at a range of different levels as well. So when you couple all of that, all of the study, as well as 6 years in international software sales and then 10 years in international boxing, I've essentially distilled down what's required to create a winning mindset, but also enjoying the journey while you're doing it.
Obviously, you work with a lot of business owners. I feel like you're a great person to answer this question.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of high net worth individuals. What's your view on money buys happiness?
I don't think it buys happiness. I think it buys dopamine, but I don't think it buys happiness. I think it can remove stress because if you don't have a lot of money, you're going to be quite stressed about paying the bills and looking after people. But I don't think it buys happiness.
Entrepreneurs always chase for more, though.
But are they chasing money or are they chasing progression? Because there's a difference between chasing money and progression. For example, if you have a coaching company, maybe you're chasing how many lives can I impact? And of course, there are financial rewards with that, but it's not just the money. And these individuals, they want to get to the next level and the next level and the next level. That's why they hire me, because they're like, I know there's another level within me, but I can't quite get there. How can I get there faster, more smoothly? How can I avoid lots of different mistakes? How can I stop self-sabotaging? How can I become more calm, more clear? So it might not just be the money, it's more the growth that they're interested in.
I'm very curious about your first client. I was thinking about this on the drive over. How did you land your first client? Because if you're a fitness coach and kind of show them in shape, have the qualifications, with what you do, is showing qualifications enough? How did you land your first client?
TMP or in coaching? Because they're two different stories.
TMP.
In TMP specifically?
Yeah, because it's,
Yeah.
I'm curious about the mindset coaching side of things.
Okay. My first ever TMP client, the first guy that actually signed up, paid, signed the dotted line and sent it over, and I remember it because he was the fastest. He was the fastest to take action, was a guy called Simon Johnson. Lovely human being, very, very, very good at what he does. And I was speaking at an event in Dubai. It was a fitness business mentoring event, and this would have been in 2021.
Did you talk about mindset in that
Yeah,
event?
the talk was called Managing Emotional Meltdowns.
Okay.
So I came in, I did the talk, and half of the room signed up with me within 3 months of that talk. And within 1 week, 5 clients signed up. And it was only then I realized, the fitness industry needs that. So the actual company didn't exist. The actual branding and the logos, which I designed on Canva.
So you were doing mindset coaching before TMP already then?
Yeah, correct.
What about the first client for that coaching business?
Oh, that was even cooler. That was an even cooler story. So I'm living in Valencia, and I had enough money from software sales to not work. So I had a year off, and I'm just doing my studies, and I'm just doing hundreds of practice hours totally for free.
Okay.
And then I had a boxing coach. He was an amazing boxing coach, changed my life. But he passed away sadly when I was 16. And his name was Martin. So I land in Valencia, and I'm living on a street called St. Martin Street. And there was some boxing on that night. And then we find a pub called the St. Martin, right? So it's very, very strange.
Okay.
On St. Martin Street, we go to a pub to watch boxing, right? And there's this Cockney fella in there. I call him Cockney Dave, right? And he goes, "You all right, fellas? You sound like you're from England." I'm like, yeah, we're from England. And he's like, "Oh, what's going on?" He asked me, "What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, well, I'm learning to be a coach and a therapist, and I'm doing my studies, whatever." He goes, "Do you reckon you can help me?" I went, "Yeah, sure, no problem. Why don't you pop over? I'll give you a free session." He goes, "No, I want to pay you." And I said, "Oh, I don't take payments yet. I'm not qualified." He went, "Don't worry about that. Like, how much do you want to charge?" So I went,
No way.
70 euros. And he went, "I'll give you 50. I went, "All right." and that was it.
How long ago was this?
8 years ago, 7 years ago. And then from there, my whole life changed. Everything changed. And it was almost like fate. It was almost like it was meant to be. And he completely changed the game. And I was already doing it for free, changing the game. But when somebody paid me, that just was the moment where I was like, I can get paid for this. And then next thing you know, it just started growing. And then I was using my business contacts to just coach people from, business and corporate and London. And then eventually I went to Dubai, did the talk. And then I was like, the fitness industry needs this. And it was quite strange because the TMP thing grew really quick. So when TMP launched, I already hired my first coach within the first 2 months. And then the next coach, and the next coach, and the next coach. So that was quite quick. But I've kind of always been coaching and mentoring, even when I was in corporate, helping out some of the younger guys, and even when I was boxing. So it's like a long time thing. There was no right, come out of school, qualification, away I go. It's a series of skills that have transferred over to get to this point, if that makes sense.
Did you always know you were going to go into business? Obviously, you took the year off after corporate sales.
I always knew I was going to be in business ever since I was 11. So one of my best mates' dad owned a business and he sold it. And he had a couple of other businesses. So he was always just hanging out at home. He was always around. And I was like, "Rory, how do you get to hang out all the time?" And he's like, "I built a business and then I sold it and I have a couple of others." I was like, "Cool, I need to do that." But I was always selling stuff. So when I was at school, I was selling sweets. When it was snowing, I'd get the shovel and I'd get 2 or 3 mates that were a little bit shy, and I'd say, "Right, you shovel the snow, I'll go knock on the doors." So we'd knock on the doors and we'd book all of that. So I was always fascinated that way. Then when I was 16, did you ever watch Dragon's Den?
Of course.
Or Shark Tank? Yeah.
Of course,
You know Peter, the big man.
Yeah.
So he had a school called the Peter Jones Enterprise Academy.
Online?
No, it was an actual school, like an in-person school. He had them all over the UK.
What?
So instead of doing exams, you come up with a business idea, you pitch for investment, and you take the business idea to market, and they assess you on that. So I went there when I was 16. I was the youngest on the course. So then I'm studying the entrepreneurial mind. I'm understanding, this is how you come up with ideas. Here are all the insecurities, the doubts, the fears of entrepreneurialism. And so it was from there I really knew business is what I wanted to go into, without a doubt. Because I've really been in the business world since I was probably 16, 17.
Do you say it's something people are born with? A lot of people say, "I want to run a business." Is it environment when they're a child, or
Bit of both. Like, there are some kids that are just born to be in business, and you can just see it at school. They're like trading stuff and they're selling stuff, and they're doing that. There are some that fall into it. That might be life circumstances. It might be they're managing a company and then they buy it off the owner and then they're in charge. And business is very different, right? So in the coaching industry, people often think they've got big businesses, but they're very small businesses. Like they're not these huge companies. They're very profitable and they can generate a lot of revenue, but they're actually very, very small. So there's a difference between having a business that runs itself and it grows without you, and then being self-employed. And I think a lot of people think they have a business when actually they own a job. Myself included, by the way. I'm not out of that,
it's a lot of us,
that
isn't
system, right?
Yeah.
So again, being self-employed and having a business, a company that's growing by itself without your input, they're two very different skill sets. So I guess it depends on what you mean by a business, you know?
Okay. If you had to start over then, without the skill you have now, you're in a 9 to 5, let's say you work in a minimum wage job, you had to start a business. Someone came to you, I want to start a business, I work in McDonald's or whatever. What would you recommend them to start doing? What's the first step? Learn a skill or just go out there and...
Okay.
I always say to people, start a service-based business because there's no overhead.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn as you go as well.
Yeah. If I was going to advise somebody at McDonald's, that's the question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I was going to advise them, I would say pick something that you're interested in. Because if you're not interested in it, you're probably not going to go the long haul. Because if you're just bored and you go into things only to make money, in my view, you might make some money. But when things get hard and when things get difficult, if you're just not interested, and even if it's not the business itself or it's the people that you're interested in, you're going to find it really tough. Whereas if you're always fascinated by, well, I want to help people, or you know what, I'm fascinated by NFTs or crypto, well then go and follow your nose. Because if you find something that you're interested in, because I'm interested in people, psychology and performance, that's all I do all day. So guess what? I'm never bored. I don't get bored doing what I'm doing. The only time I get bored is when I'm doing the stuff around that, which I've mainly outsourced. So that's what I would say. Find something you're interested in, number one. Number two, find a mentor, somebody that's been there, done it, whether that's in podcasts, whether that's in courses, because the purpose of a mentor is really simple. They tell you what's not important. That's it. Don't worry about that, do that. Don't worry about that, do that. So they save you time, they save you risk, they save you money, and they save you to focus on these things. That's the second thing. And then the third thing is go out there and fuck shit up and accept you're going to lose money, accept you're going to make bad mistakes, accept you're going to look like a bit of an idiot, you're going to look a little bit stupid. That's okay. Just go and get that out of the way, because that's going to happen again and again and again. So I would say those are I know it was one thing. That's kind of like the three things I would say.
Okay. Right, I want to transition here to a quick segment called Quick Fire. I'm going to give you two options. Just pick one. We can explain it after.
Okay.
Okay? Dubai or the UK?
Dubai.
Gold or real estate?
So hard, mate, because whenever people ask me these questions, it's like, it depends on the objective, right?
Of course. If you have to say one, you have to pick one.
On a philosophical level, based on human psychology, gold.
Gold, okay.
Yeah.
Because you're a boxer, Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua?
Actually, Anthony Joshua.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it depends, right? As a man, Anthony Joshua.
Okay.
As a technical fighter, you know, this is the problem with these questions is I like nuance. I'm a nuance guy. As a technical fighter, Fury.
Even after the last fight he had?
With Usyk or with
Anthony
Dubois?
Joshua. Dubois getting knocked out, yeah.
I think Fury beats AJ, but as a man and what he stands for, AJ.
Perfect. Sushi or steak?
Steak.
9 to 5 or start a business?
Start a business.
Marathon or a sprint?
I'm a sprinter, so sprint.
A daughter or a son?
Son.
YouTube or Netflix?
YouTube.
Weights or cardio?
Interesting. Depends on the cardio. If it's like boxing.
Oh, you get one? You get one?
Okay. My cardio?
Cardio. Stocks or crypto?
Crypto interests me more. But again, it depends on the outcome, right? If
Yeah,
I want to
of
make
course.
money, I'd probably make more money in stocks over the long run than I would in crypto based on my profile and who I'm like.
Okay.
But what interests me more is crypto.
Do you have anything in crypto?
I did.
You did.
Made a big mistake. Very, very, not a big investor, right? Bought when it was high. It basically tanked. I went, you know what? I'm just going to keep it in there. Then it came back up and I basically broke even. And I took my money out and went, right, I need to find an expert to teach me before I do that again.
Oh, not a bad move. There's this thing where they talk about, you know the crypto cycle, right?
Yeah.
They always say the first cycle you lose money,
Yeah.
second cycle you break even,
Uh-huh.
and third cycle is when you make money.
Right, here we go. I'm on my third cycle then.
You know, the third cycle. Oh, there you go. Dubai or the UK? You pick Dubai.
Yeah.
You came over how many years ago?
I haven't lived in the UK for 5 years, going to be coming up to 6 years now.
What made you come over in the first place? Was it just for tax, was it?
No, I didn't want to live in Dubai.
Yeah?
I never had this Dubai dream. I never thought like this is where I want to live. My preconceived idea of the place was it's flashy, it's ostentatious. I don't want that. It's not for me. I ended up here because I got stuck on the second lockdown. So I came out here to
5
speak.
years ago.
Yeah. So 4 years ago because I was living in Spain before.
Oh.
But I come here, I do the talk. I've packed for literally 3 days. So I'm doing the talk and a friend of mine was like, why don't you stay for a little bit longer? And a client was like, look, we've got an appointment. We can sort this out. I was like, all right, I'll stay for a week. I stayed for a week and then I couldn't come home because the UAE was on the red list. So then I was like, right, I'm going to stay here for Q1 because all of my business was online. I'm going to stay for Q1. Q1 was when TMP blew up. And then Q2 was when TMP blew up. So then I was like, all right, I'll stay for Q1. I'll stay for Q2. Then it got to Q3, Q4. And I'm like, well, I'm still here. And I'm pretty happy here. So
Was the company set up in
stay.
Dubai already at that point?
Well, I actually set up in the UK first
Okay.
because I wasn't sure if I was going to stay in Dubai. But then after 6 to 7 months, I was like, well, it's pretty obvious that I'm here. So I set them up. And then I had 2 companies, but the UK company's now shut.
Fully Dubai. Do you see yourself raising your kids here, having a family here, or is Dubai kind of like, oh, until I have a family and a bounce?
Never say never, but I don't think I'd raise my kids here.
Why is that?
Because I've met a lot of kids that are raised here, and some of them I love. They're some of my dearest friends. But a lot of them I just don't think have a real understanding of what the real world is like. And I don't think it's healthy to be brought up in almost like a simulation grade level society. Because it's so safe. Technology is amazing, like whatever. But
This is what I said as well.
You gotta live in the real world.
Yeah,
man.
you need to back kids in school. You need to bully.
You need a bit of danger. No, there's still
they need
bullies.
to learn
There's
how
bullies
to
in
navigate.
every school, right?
Yeah,
But like a little bit like that looks dodgy. Don't walk down that alley. Okay. Don't walk in that area late at night. Or be careful of pickpockets in this area. You know, even like seeing poverty and understanding. Actually, kid, you've got it pretty fucking good, and there are people in society that don't have that. Whereas here, you can live a very sheltered life. But on the other side, it's very safe, and the schools are generally okay, and the medical system is very good, you know? So from that side, I get it. My heart and soul is in Spain. So my mum's from Spain. I'm half Spanish. I have a Spanish passport.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. I'm Kyran O'Neill, right? My actual full name is Kyran Luis O'Neill Lopez.
Okay, now that makes sense. The
yeah.
Lopez thing comes in, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
So that's where my heart is. The way they in Spain they work to live. They don't live to work. Here it's you live to work. And I like the idea of just like, especially on that south coast, the Malaga areas where my family are from, Malaga, Marbella, anywhere in between. It's like sunsets, you're hanging out in the evening, you know, you walk down the street and you see a grandmother and kids and family, and it's such a beautiful lifestyle, you know. Whereas here it's go, work, push. In London, it's raining all the time and it's dark, and I don't do well with that. So Spain, you know, is the long-term goal. But you never know. We just don't know what might happen. There could be a world war, and this is the Switzerland of the second end of 2020. So if there's a world war going on and Europe's not safe anymore, probably going to be in Dubai. So again, you just don't know. So that's why I say never say never. I never wanted to live here.
We'll be fine. Trump went official yesterday.
Yeah,
Right, run me through gold or real estate. The last time I spoke to you, I think you were in the process of buying a place in JVC, were you?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
how's that going?
Yeah, I bought it.
Are you gonna expand your real estate portfolio in Dubai, or is that taking a pause as well?
So at the moment, as I understand it, looking at it, Dubai has been on 3 years of back-to-back growth. It's never seen that. So for me, instead of buying some more properties right now, because I've already bought one, and I bought one, when was that? It was in August. So if I'm bought at a perceived high, right, if there is going to be a market correction and prices are going to drop, then I'm going to come back in and buy something then. But on the flip side, if it does keep growing, and the good news is I've already kind of offset that. So I'm kind of betting on both. But from what I can see, there's a hell of a lot of units going on online, like a hell of a lot.
A lot, yeah.
And it's been growing 3 years back to back. So just from where I'm sat right now, I'm not too sure if I'm going to invest again.
Because I'm thinking about it, and I went online yesterday, and there's 1,400 buildings pre-built that's going on right now, which is crazy. So I know a lot of people are flooding to Dubai because of what Europe is like at the moment. Everyone who's rich just escapes to Dubai, but I just can't see that many people coming in.
Well, it depends, right? It also depends on what you're buying. So a studio or a one bed, right? And if you buy something on, say, 40 floors, and I'm not a real estate expert, by the way, this is just my thinking. My thinking might not be accurate. I'm not a real estate expert. This is not financial advice.
Not financial advice.
Yeah, but I don't know. I look at it and I'm like, well, I looked at one building, 34 floors, 340 units, 300 of them are all studios or one beds, right? So when you try to eventually sell it, and then there's another 50 of the same unit that look exactly the same, right? Well, then that's become very commoditized. So I just look at it and I'm like, well, how many studios and how many one beds do we need? Now, there's a lot of young single people here, but if you're building loads and loads and loads, and millionaires that come over, they tend to bring their families. So you don't need 4 units, you need 1 unit. So again, but you just don't know. We could be stood in where London was a couple of 100 years ago. 100 years ago. We just don't know. We could be stood in the future New York. So when you try and predict the future, you have a bit of a tough time. So you've just got to take bet by bet by bet by bet. But I'm still learning my own financial literacy because I've been so focused on building TMP and so focused on my coaching. It's only really the last 12 months I've really started going, not even that, probably the last 6 months I've started going, actually, let me do some study. Let me read some books. Let me hire a couple of coaches to teach me some of this stuff. Let me actually start learning. Let me start making some little bets and learn and practice. So I'm still very, very early on in that journey. And so insofar as the specific investment side, if anything, all of my clients are miles ahead of me in that area.
Let's move away from the money side of things, all right? How do you have fun, Kyran? How do you have fun? Before the podcast started, Kyran has something called a King Day. Expand on that, and how do you have fun?
Yeah, so in the middle of the week, I like to take 4 hours off. Sometimes 6 hours, but I just chill out. So I always train in the mornings, always train 9:30 a.m., get into the gym, train 45 minutes, get out. Then I go to work. But on a King Day, I train in the morning, and then I usually, depending on the weather, go to a beach club, or I'll take the dog out for a walk somewhere, or I'll go meet a friend for a coffee, maybe play some squash. I actually haven't picked up the chessboard, but last year I was picking up the chessboard.
Oh, I'm very excited for a rematch.
Yeah, I've got the big rematch coming up tonight. I watch a lot of football, so a lot of Arsenal games, boxing. I picked up Age of Empires. I don't know if you ever played that. It's,
PC.
Strategy game. Picked that up last year, started getting too into it, and I was like, right, I've got to get out of that because I have a very addictive mind. So I've got to pick my addictions, and if I'm not careful, I can then end up burning up a lot of time on something that I don't need to burn up. But that's generally how I switch off, is usually sports. Obviously, with my girlfriend Polly, we usually like to drive up to the mountains at the weekend. So if that's mountains or beaches or other parts of the UAE or Dubai to explore. And I love a beach club, man. I really like just, not like the ones where people are getting drunk. I like the ones where are really quiet, good food, good company, just chatting like, hey, what's going on? What are you up to?
What beach club would you recommend?
Ooh.
We went to one. Dubai is really cold at the moment. It's so windy. We went to one. We stayed there for 30 minutes. We ate our food and we went.
Too cold.
Because we were freezing.
Oh, really?
With our tops off. And then the cloud would come by, cover the sun, and put our shirt back on. It get windy. We said, let's go.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's terrible right now.
Yeah. I went to Drift Beach Club. I didn't like it when I went 3 years ago. I don't know why. Went back Wednesday, last week. It's actually really nice.
Yeah, it's quiet.
Yeah, it's quiet, chilled. Nice food, like for me, I don't like really loud ones where people are like slamming shots and I don't like that. I like more of a low key, let's just hang out, chill, chew the fat, enjoy life, have a laugh, like the conversation and the people. That's the ones I really enjoy.
How long have you been with your girlfriend, by the way? She's Russian, is she?
Yeah, We've been together for a year and 3 months now.
You met in Dubai.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Dubai dating scene?
I mean, I was single for 3 years for a reason.
Really?
I think depends on what you're looking for insofar as a partner, right? So Dubai is like a revolving door. So you get a lot of people go in, a lot of people go out, a lot of people go in, a lot of people go out. And as a result, it can be quite tricky. You've also got very different cultures. And that's what I love about this city is various different cultures all coexist. And it's beautiful. But even with Polly, right? She's from Russia. They have a real big importance of, I want real men. I want strong men.
Great impression.
That's what I like. So I never really did flowers. Wasn't really my thing. But in Russian culture, flowers are a big deal, dude. A really big deal. So then I'm like, okay, why? And I start reading up on it, and I start speaking to her Russian friends. And
Did you find it out the hard way?
Yeah, I found it the hard way. Yeah. Well, now I hopefully she's not listening to this podcast, but I have an automated calendar invite to buy flowers at the end of every month.
I love that.
So just as she's like, when's my next flowers coming in? Boom, in they come.
That is so cool. Would you say your traditional mindset when it comes to relationships?
When you say traditional,
I want to be the breadwinner. She's more of a family person. I'll take care of the family.
Yeah, if we're saying that's traditional, then yeah, like I like building, I like providing, and I like doing that. So Polly, she is a little bit more traditional with the Russian side, where she's like, I want strong men to provide and do this, but she's ambitious because she's got her own thing. So she works in a luxury wedding company doing all the videography, but she doesn't shoot. She manages all the business side. So she's dealing with clients, dealing with contractors, dealing with suppliers and whatever. So she's got her own dreams. She's had a couple of businesses before. She wants to build another business. So while she'd love to be a stay-at-home mum when she's got the first few little ones running around, that's not what she wants to do forever. And I like that. So I'd say I'm not like old school Victorian traditional, you know. But I also think if you earn more than your partner, like share that.
Okay, that makes sense because it's very messy with that side of the world right now.
Yeah.
Very divided.
Yeah, and you know, like cultures are different. Every culture is different.
I didn't get it when I first went to Ireland. Mm-hmm. Funny story. Obviously, Malaysia to Ireland, right? Mm-hmm. I got a huge culture shock, not because of Malaysia to Europe, but because everything I knew about the Western world was based off the US because of the media, YouTube, everything was in the States. And when I got to Ireland, I got a culture shock. Like, why is it nothing like what I saw online?
Yeah, interesting.
Even the culture and so on, it's so different.
What would you say? I'm curious. By the way, this is the most on podcast wise. This is like the most varied. I'm quite having a lot of fun. I'm not. Usually, it's more around mindset. And
we're going into lots of different areas. I didn't want to drill you about what you talk about every day already.
Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah.
So, what would you say? Like, because I find culture fascinating. That's one thing I loved about living in London. That's one thing I love living here. Is our set of principles and what we believe is right and wrong versus what someone else is.
I'll start with relationships, right? Because we were talking about relationships. Asian people tend to be a lot more clingy. Uh-huh. This is why it's not like Asians and Caucasians don't want to date each other. People have this mindset where it's all yellow fever, right? They don't want to date Asians. Okay. It's not because it's because of the culture. If you're from Asia and listening to this, you know our parents have never told us I love you. Never. If I rang my mom and told her I love you, like hand on heart, she'd think I'm trying to kill myself. Yeah. So we lack a lot of attention and love from our parents. Not that we lack it. They love us. You know, deep down. It's just they express it in a different way. It's very, very weird to say I love you to your children. So hence Asians are very clingy. Yeah. When two Asians date each other, they're together all the time. All the time. So when you get a Caucasian who got a lot of attention from their parents, an Asian in a relationship, it doesn't really click. Because more often than not, the other side will start to get annoyed with how clingy the other side is.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing when it comes to relationships.
That's very interesting. So there's a similar dynamic in, like, not similar, it's very different, but in Russia, what I've learned is if you want to be successful with Russian women, you have to turn into a simp.
Okay.
Flowers.
No, that is the same. That is the same.
And it's like like just all these small little gestures and messaging them every day. But I can't do that. I'm hardwired to not be that way. So when, like even, I'd never done this before, right? When I first took Polly out, I brought her a book from Dostoevsky, who's a writer from St. Petersburg, from her city where she's from, right? I've never, ever, in England, I would never rock up
first
with
date
with a gift on the first date. I'd never do that, right?
What was the book about?
It was about a girl from St. Petersburg who actually had her heart broken and destroyed by this man, and it was a very short book, but it was a very interesting. What would you give
that to her as a gift on the first date?
Well, it was the only thing I knew. I was like, well, she's from St. Petersburg, and it's a small book, and I'll get her this one or whatever, right? The only reason I did that was because one, I'd been on a date with a Russian before, and I was chatting with her, like, no present. And I was like, what? Like, no present, no flowers? I was like, tell me more. And then my assistant before, she was from Ukraine. So that Eastern European culture, she said to me, if you ever date a Ukrainian, Russian girl, you always bring flowers, you always bring a present. So I was like, all right, I'm going to be a little bit more culturally flexible here. I'll bring a little book. But the way that Russian men treat their partners, loving, caring, providing, they're there, right? Whereas I used to be that way in London and it got me nowhere. So you have to become like the opposite. And she really challenged me, and she was like, I was like, look, innately, me behaving that way makes me feel like a loser based on all of my previous experiences.
Exactly,
so I will give you what you need, but I'm not going to go from one extreme to the other. And at the same time, she had to evolve and adapt in various different ways. So, but I think that comes with emotional, psychological, and spiritual flexibility to be able to meet someone where they're at and listen. Why is that important to you? Why do you care about that? Why are you triggered by that? Well, my family or how I was brought up or in our culture, this means this and this. And often it's the same thing where the conflict happens.
Yeah.
You're both looking for respect or you're both looking for love. And the way in which you display love and respect, if you're in a intercultural relationship, will be completely different.
When I first got to Ireland, one thing that really surprised me was how little the West knew about Asia.
Yeah.
But we know so much about you guys because, again, media, everything is.
Well, you think that it's actually America.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because you thought America was Europe.
Exactly.
Completely, you're going to offend a European if you're
very different. I remember bringing flowers to a girl on our second date.
Was she freaked out?
She freaked out.
Yeah,
she freaked out. Like in Ireland and the UK, I don't know if you have the same experience, but you cannot go to a girl and go, "Do you want to go on a date?" They would freak.
Yeah. What?
You have to like slowly dial in this awkward phase. You don't know if you're dating, just talking, and then ask them out that way.
Yeah, very different. Very, very. Whereas, like even here, like let's go back to the Russian culture because that's what I've been experiencing. Right? You never, when you pick up a Russian girl, you never ever say, "I'll meet you there." You pick her up yourself, or you send her a taxi. So I've got a lot of friends out here that started dating Russian girls. Like, she wants me to send a fucking taxi. What the fuck? You're like, what on earth? And I'm like, dude, that's how they roll. So you've got to learn whether you want to play that game or not. Maybe you don't want to play that game.
Yeah,
that's okay. But what I will say about my experience of the Russian people is outside externally quite cold and facial expressions are quite moody. On the inside, they're the warmest, loving, caring. Like their people are their people, and when you're on the inside, they are so sweet, and they can't do enough for you, and they're always thinking of you. And they've got this weird thing that we don't have as Europeans. I don't know if it's the same in Malaysia, but gifting. They buy each other gifts all the time for everything.
Tiny gestures.
Yeah, just little gifts like, oh, hey, I bought you these flowers, or oh, I thought you'd like this bracelet.
Yeah.
Like, so like Polly's always, and their friends are always buying each other presents. And when she went to Russia, loads of her friends I hadn't met sent me lots of little presents. And I'm like, I can't wrap my head around all these bloody gifts. Like, what on earth? Whereas,
have you met the parents?
No. Yeah. They're in Russia.
You're going to have to prepare for that.
yeah, well, her mum's coming here in March. So, yeah.
A lot of gifts coming up.
Flowers. I'm going to get a good set of flowers and make sure that, she has a nice time and she's calm, she's collected, and show her around Dubai. And
my girlfriend's Irish, actually.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I brought her to Malaysia. And this is one thing that we have. I talked to her quite a bit about this. how my definition of affection is gestures as well. Because it's so different growing up. It's like birthday's a big thing. If your friends know it's your birthday, they'll try and, surprise party, any events, there's always some sort of thing that someone close to you is doing for you. But
Funny you say that about birthdays. Yeah, because birthdays for me aren't a big deal.
Yeah.
Like if no one knows it's my birthday, I'm pretty chill, right? Whereas with Polly and her friends, like full-blown essays. I love you. Thank you so much for being in my life. You are amazing. I wish you a year of love and strength and this. Whereas where I'm from, it's like, happy birthday, mate. Do you know what I mean? That's it. So when Polly, it was her birthday and she's getting all of her messages from her friends and my friends, she was like, your friends are kind of rude. And I was like, what? Like look at these birthday messages. They're not like me. And I was like, no, that's just how we do it. Like even I don't wish really anyone a happy birthday. Only like really close friends and family. Like I don't even remember those things. And over there, it's completely different. But again, that's cultural and that flexibility to understand. Whereas when it's my friend's birthday, all my friends say, "Oh my God, Polly sent me such a heartwarming message." And show me, and it'll be like half the essay that she sends her friends. But for us, it's a real big deal, right? And it's just learning, they do things differently. Cool. And that's actually cool for business as well, because I used to work for a Japanese company and I used to be a Brit selling into the US. So our division in London would report into Japan, right? Little things like a female CEO and maybe me and a couple of other directors walk into a room and the men would greet us before the female CEO. In Europe, you never get away with that. Never in a million fucking years, right?
Never, yeah.
But we can sit there and say, your culture is wrong, you're misogynistic, you're this or this, or you go, well, actually, that's how they play the game. So we can arrogantly here as Europeans say, we know better and you do it wrong and right or whatever. Or you can go, well, that's how they play the game. You play it their way. In America, they're a lot more positive and they're open and they're chatty and they're friendly. But you never really know where you stand on a business standpoint. The amount of software pitches I'll do, Kyran, this is amazing. I love what you're doing. It's fucking awesome. Like really, really, really cool. I can't wait to hear from you. I'd never hear from them again. In England or around Europe, I'd do a pitch and I'd know pretty quickly, it's cool, but not for us. And I'd say, thanks, mate, and off I go. So it's just done differently, And when you can get to that level of, I need to be fluid in what I perceive to be true and what they perceive to be true and meet that common ground. That's what Dubai is great. You really work on your cultural skills to deal with all sorts of cultures and religions and backgrounds and norms, and you learn a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it's nice. One thing, when I first met you, one thing that really stood out about you was how you spoke. You just seem approachable straight away. You're soft-spoken. You're very good on stage.
Thank you.
Give me some tips on speaking.
Yeah.
How can I improve the way I articulate myself? Because obviously English is not my first language. I have that strong accent. I've been told to speak slower, pause, this, that, filler words, get rid of it.
Okay. Here's one story, actually, that hurts a little bit. So there was a point in my software sales career where the feedback we got from the CEO why I wasn't going to be promoted was because I wasn't polished enough. So the voice I have, I've had to really work on because I grew up in a working class background, right? Bit of a fucking geezer, mate, would drop my fucking words, you know what I mean? A boxing club, gruff guy. So I used to drop a lot of my words and I wouldn't pronounce that. So I went, fuck you, Mrs. CEO. And I went to elocution lessons and I started learning how to pronounce words and I was listening to tapes. And so I was basically just removing the excuse that you can't promote me because I'm not polished enough. And I was learning how to carry myself and looking at body language and how to stand and all these various different things. So I worked on that side. And that was really important for software sales pitches, especially when you're selling into Europe and when you're selling into America. Yeah, people need to understand you, right? So I did a lot of work on that. So that was, it hurt at the time. And especially as I was the number one performing guy and I was like, you won't promote me because you don't like me, because you didn't like me. And I took it as like classism, basically. Yeah. Because my colleague, she was the one he wanted to promote, a lot more polished than I was. But anyway. Just look people in the eyes. And if you feel uncomfortable looking people in the eyes, just look at one eye. Like just focus on one. Okay. Because if you're like doing this, right? Like as I'm doing that, and for people that are listening to this, I'm basically flitting between facial positions. How do you feel as I do that?
I feel very awkward.
Right.
Yeah.
But when I actually just look at you, okay, I'm going to look at that eye, right?
Okay.
If I'm just here and I'm chatting, what do you feel? Do you feel a difference or is it the same?
Yeah, I feel like you're looking at me in the eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're somebody that struggles with eye contact, just look at one eye. It will become a hell of a lot easier for you to connect. And the Christians say, I'm a hugely Christian man, but the eyes are the windows to the soul. So if you really want to connect with someone, like look deeply into their eyes and understand them. Speaking, tips on speaking, like accept that it's going to be rough and dirty for your first few talks, and you're probably going to speak a little bit too fast, and you're going to stumble your words, and then you're going to kind of flick through slides, and that's going to be tricky. That's fine. That's part of the game. But only speak on stuff that you know your shit about. Sounds obvious, right?
Obviously, yeah.
Sounds obvious, right? But a lot of people speak on stuff that they don't know about. So then their delivery is a little bit more, I don't know, because I'm kind of trying to remember the words and know all about this. So only speak on stuff you know about, because especially if there's a big Q&A at the end, and then you're like, somebody asks you a question, you got no idea what you're talking about, then you're going to have an issue. I don't use scripts. A lot of people use scripts. I know a lot of people, like, they write down scripts for their talks, and I don't do that. I use visual prompts. So I look at the slide, and because I know my subject matter so well, I just need the visual prompt. Okay, I'm going to talk about emotion management. Okay, now I'm going to talk about this tool. So that's how I speak. And I always try and make people achieve three things, right? Number one is an insight they didn't know. So it's taking them from unaware to aware. Oh, I didn't realize that could be slowing me down. Number two is a practical tool, because it's evil to pull up pain or evil to pull up performance and then not give them something to do about it, right? And I give them a practical tool. And number three, it's a feeling that they're not alone. They're not alone in emotions or fear or doubt. And actually, when I tick those three things, and if I ask somebody, what did you take away? And they say, this tool was really helpful and this insight was really good, I know that was good. If it was just, your energy was amazing, I'm like, I failed as a speaker. Because a lot of people think speaking is about motivation and injecting energy, right? But that's just bullshit, because you can't do anything with that. Whereas if I ask somebody, and I do this with myself, or when people say, I really like that speaker, and I say, what do you take away? Oh, his energy was great. That doesn't mean anything. You haven't really learned anything other than like, Andrew Tate style, come on, man, get to the gym and work out. Like, it's just not helpful, you know?
Okay. You mentioned about how obviously before you went to the lessons, you had a different accent, different way of you speaking. How did you get rid of that and speak the way you do today?
Work. So again, the coaching sessions, I needed a handful, but they were helpful. Practicing, listening back to my pitches. So we used to do, it was called Red Room. So basically you do a pitch and you destroy someone's pitch, why their pitch was shit. You go like, your pitch was shit because you missed this part of the process. You didn't ask this question, or for some reason you were fiddling, like you were like playing with whatever, or you didn't do the slides properly. And I did that with one of my CEOs before, where he'd come in and to be fair, he tried to rip it to shreds, and he went, you know what, I can't actually rip it. The only thing is, I think your buttons are slightly too low on your shirt. I'm like, you fucking got me. Like,
There's always something.
Yeah.
There's always something.
Yeah. It's practice, but at the same time, mate, you don't lose yourself entirely, right? So if you were to get this random British polished accent, might not suit you. So you don't want to lose yip.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what makes you you. But it's also about, like, if you hear me in a boxing club or one of the pubs near where I grew up, a bit more of a geezer.
You switch it up.
Yeah, right? But when I'm in a business context, for example, shooting here, it's really important the audience can understand me, regardless as to whether they're from all around Europe, from America, maybe some in Malaysia, you know. That's more of a business presentation thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Right, I got the queue there for the last 5 minutes. I have one last question here for you. A bit deeper, a bit of a deeper one. Now, a lot of people nowadays are very hard on themselves, right? They run a business. As their business starts to scale, I remember me going to my first mentor. My first mentor was actually Ollie Carson.
Cool.
I signed up with him. I know, lovely guy. And I remember telling him, a year from now, that was a part of his sales call, right?
Yeah.
Where do you want to be a year from now? I'll be so happy if I could make $5,000 a month. That's what I wanted. I was working in a few stations. I was working 2 jobs, 3 jobs at that point. I've gotten past that. Some of my friends I speak to feel the same way. It's always that one more client. It's always that one more milestone before the stress, the anxiety, the scarcity goes away.
Uh-huh.
How does someone get rid of feeling?
Yeah, it's not through more. It's not through more money. It's not through more clients. It's not through more. What my first billionaire client I got in Dubai was I should have paid him, because I learned so much from that client, because I realized you can literally have and the difference between 1 million and 1 billion, by the way, is unbelievable, right?
Crazy.
But I realized you can have all of the stuff in the world and still not feel like you've got enough and still have scarcity. And that's really what I learned. So the answer isn't through more. The answer isn't, I need more clients, I need a bigger business, which usually brings more complexity, by the way, and more problems. You need to deal with the scarcity itself. You need to deal with the part of you, that inner child that doesn't feel enough, that inner child that feels like someone's going to take this away, or if I don't make the most of this, I'm wasting my time and my energy. Because otherwise, you're just going to keep grabbing for more and more and more and more. And the problem with that is, as you open more opportunities with more cash, you then can create more problems, whether that's overspending, whether that's making things really complicated, whether that's just burning the relationships around you. When you actually realize that you're enough, you are always enough, and you were always born with abundance. It's just the world told you, or your upbringing told you, that you need more because there's not enough to go around for everyone. It's not true. So you need to work on the feeling itself, not through the business. But you got to go figure it out for yourself. Well, that's easy for you to say because you've maybe achieved some goals. So then you got to get to that next level and then achieve it. And then you go, but there will come a point where you realize, that feeling's still there no matter what I achieve. And that's where you got to go inwards, not external.
So it's not really an action step then. It's just deep down.
Really simple. Hire a coach to help you do the work.
Lovely. Kyran from TMP, guys. Thank you very much. First episode done.
All right,
I love it. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.